Welcome to Infinite Universe with new interesting episode. China has moved over 1 million rabbits into a desert. That might sound strange at first, but there's an important reason behind it. The country isn't just releasing animals for fun, they're trying to change the land itself. In a time when the environment is in trouble all around the world, desertification has become a serious problem. This happens when good, healthy land slowly turns into dry, lifeless desert. And once that happens, it's very hard to bring it back. But China's massive effort to fight back against desertification in a place called Dalad Bana is showing that it's still possible. What they've done is more than just planting a few trees or cleaning up garbage. They've changed a whole desert region and inspired other countries to try something similar. Now, let's look closely at this amazing project. In many parts of the world, land that once supported farming and wildlife is drying up. Forests disappear. Crops fail. Animals leave. People are forced to move because the land can no longer support them. According to the United Nations, about 12 million hectares of land are lost every year to desertification. That's a huge amount, an area roughly the size of Greece. It affects millions of people, making it hard to grow food, store water, and protect biodiversity. So countries everywhere are trying to fight it, but many of their efforts don't last long. Tree planting is the most common solution, but it often doesn't work well. Trees can't always survive the dry, hot desert weather. They die without enough water or nutrients, and the land goes back to being a desert again. But China decided to try something different in Dalad Bana, a region in Inner Mongolia in northern China. This area is part of the Gobi Desert, one of the largest deserts in the world. For years, people living there watched as their land turned into dry sand. The soil became infertile, rainfall became unreliable, and farming got harder. Many families left the area because they couldn't survive there anymore. The land was slowly dying. So, the Chinese government and scientists got together and launched an ambitious desert reclamation project. They used both modern technology and traditional knowledge to help bring the land back to life. Instead of just planting trees and hoping for the best, they used tools like satellite data, drones, and remote sensing to understand exactly what was going on. They studied the land, tracked rainfall, and analyzed the condition of the soil. Then, they created a plan that involved several different strategies working together. They used methods to improve soil health, save water, and reintroduce native plants that had once grown in the region. One especially helpful method they used is called biomulching. This involves spreading organic materials, like compost or straw, on top of the soil. It helps keep moisture in the ground, stops the wind from blowing the soil away, and gives plants the nutrients they need to grow. They also used something called windbreak planting. This means planting rows of bushes or grass to act like walls that block the wind. These walls protect the soil from being blown away and help keep it in place. Over time, these plants created pockets of protection where other plants could start to grow. By 2010, they had already seen amazing results. More than 15,000 hectares of dry land had been turned back into green spaces. Plants were growing again in places that had once been just sand. The success caught the attention of government groups and environmental organizations around the world. In 2014, they expanded the project even further. What makes this project so special is that it doesn't just focus on planting things, it focuses on rebuilding the entire ecosystem. That includes fixing the soil, improving water flow, bringing back native plants, and supporting animals that play a role in the balance of the environment. That's where the rabbits come in. Over 1 million rabbits were released into the desert not just as animals to survive there, but as workers of nature. These rabbits helped in surprising ways. They dug burrows that improved soil structure and water absorption. Their waste acted as fertilizer. They ate invasive plants that could hurt the growth of native species. In short, the rabbits became part of the natural system helping the land recover. Other countries noticed what China was doing and wanted to learn from it. Places like Africa, the Middle East, and Central Asia, where deserts are also spreading, saw that this approach could work for them too. One of the most famous projects inspired by Dalad Bana is the African Union's Great Green Wall. This huge effort hopes to restore 100 million hectares of land across the Sahel region of Africa by 2030. They aim to stop desertification and help millions of people by rebuilding healthy landscapes, much like what happened in China. So why did China take such a bold step? It all started back in the 1980s when northern China faced a growing environmental disaster. Land that once supported farming turned into dry desert. Sand dunes moved fast, swallowing villages and farms. People were losing their homes, food was becoming harder to grow, and entire communities were in danger. The situation was especially bad in places like Inner Mongolia, Ningxia, and Gansu. These were already dry areas, and the growing desert made things worse. Rivers and lakes dried up. Livestock had nothing to eat. Soil erosion spread quickly because of deforestation and overgrazing. When too many trees are cut down or too many animals feed in one area, the soil loses protection and starts blowing away in the wind. The dry weather didn't help. Northern China often goes through long droughts, with very little rain for months. Without water, nothing can grow. Dust storms began spreading to cities like Beijing, bringing sand and pollution across the country and even to other countries like Japan and Korea. People were breathing in dust, and the sky would turn dark during storms. Something had to be done, and fast. At first, the government tried traditional solutions. They launched large-scale tree planting campaigns, hoping the trees would hold the soil in place and slow down the desert. This effort became known as the Green Great Wall. It aimed to create a massive line of trees stretching across northern China. The idea was to build a living wall to block the desert. But the plan didn't work as well as they hoped. Many of the trees couldn't survive. The soil didn't have the right nutrients. The climate was too dry. Even drought-resistant species couldn't survive the extreme heat and lack of water. In some cases, the wrong types of trees were planted, trees that weren't native and didn't fit the ecosystem. These trees disrupted the natural balance and made things worse. Also, the projects were often too large and too rushed. They needed more than just good intentions. They needed science, planning, and the right tools. So, the focus began to shift. Instead of just planting trees, they started working on the land itself. They looked at the soil, the water, the animals, and the plants, all the parts of the environment that needed to work together. That's how the Dalad Bana project was born. It brought together new technology with a deep respect for nature. People realized that deserts are not just empty lands, they are damaged ecosystems that can be fixed. By improving the soil, managing water carefully, and bringing back native species, it's possible to reverse the damage. The rabbits are just one piece of this puzzle. By living in the area, they help keep the land healthy. Other animals like insects, birds, and even small reptiles also returned as the land improved. The project became a model of how to work with nature instead of against it. As the Dalad Bana project succeeded, people living nearby saw real changes. The land began to support farming again. New green areas were formed. The air became cleaner. Dust storms decreased. Communities that had once been forced to leave could start rebuilding. Children could grow up with hope again. The environment that once threatened their future was now protecting it. And this wasn't just about one place. The success of Dalad Bana showed the world that desertification isn't permanent. It can be reversed. But it takes time, teamwork, and smart planning. Countries dealing with similar problems are now looking to Dalad Bana as a symbol of what's possible. Environmental experts around the world are studying the methods used in China to apply them to their own lands. International cooperation has grown, with scientists and governments sharing ideas and learning from each other. The fight against desertification is not just about saving land, it's about saving lives. As climate change continues to affect weather patterns, more and more areas are at risk of turning into deserts. But Dalad Bana gives us a reason to believe that even the worst situations can be turned around. So when people ask why China would release 1 million rabbits into a desert, the answer is simple: to help heal the land. Those rabbits are part of a carefully planned system that works with nature to rebuild what was lost. It's not a quick fix, and it doesn't happen overnight. But it shows what we can do when we think differently, work together, and believe in the power of change. The story of Daled Bana is not just about China. It's about all of us. It shows that when people care deeply about the earth and are willing to act, real change is possible. A desert may look lifeless, but with effort, it can become green again. Just like the rabbits hopping across the sand, hope can return, one step at a time. The issue of desertification in China had long been a serious environmental problem. Over the years, the country made many efforts to plant trees and stop the spread of deserts, but those efforts didn't always succeed. One major reason for the failure was the high death rate of trees. Many trees that were planted didn't survive due to poor soil, lack of water, and harsh conditions. Another reason was that the projects focused too much on planting trees and not enough on other important environmental needs like improving soil quality, managing water properly, and involving local communities. Because of this, the results of these reforestation projects were often only partially successful. As the problems became more obvious, Chinese scientists and policymakers realized that the traditional ways of fighting desertification were not enough. They began to look for better solutions that could help restore the land more effectively and permanently. Starting in the 1990s and continuing into the 2000s, they developed a new approach to restoring deserts. This new method focused on the entire ecosystem instead of just planting trees. They included strategies to improve the soil, use water more efficiently, and bring back different types of plants and animals. One of the biggest examples of this new strategy was a project that started in the early 2000s in the Daled Bana Desert region of Inner Mongolia. This new idea was considered radical at the time because it tried to bring life back to the desert by encouraging a wide variety of vegetation and wildlife to grow and thrive together. The goal was to build a stronger and healthier ecosystem that could support itself without constant human help. Scientists used something called ecological engineering to create this system. They also included farming and livestock in the restoration process. Instead of treating the desert like a separate problem, they tried to recreate the natural balance of life. In nature, plants, animals, and tiny organisms work together in a cycle that supports the land. This project aimed to do the same by making sure every part of the environment worked in harmony. Earlier desert restoration efforts often failed because they didn't pay attention to the complex relationships within the environment. For example, if you just plant trees but don't fix the soil or solve the water shortage, those trees won't live for long. The new method was more complete. It looked at everything that affects the health of the land, including soil fertility, how well the land holds water, and the diversity of plants and animals. To help restore the desert, they used farming practices, carefully managed livestock, and engineering techniques designed to improve the land. This approach tried to copy how healthy ecosystems naturally function. One of the most surprising parts of this new strategy was the use of livestock, especially a type of rabbit called the Rex rabbit. Normally, animals like sheep or goats are blamed for making desertification worse because they eat too much vegetation and damage the land. But in this new plan, animals were seen as a potential solution, not a problem. The idea was that if used in the right way, livestock could actually help bring the desert back to life. And in this case, the chosen animal was the Rex rabbit. The Rex rabbit was originally bred for its beautiful fur, but scientists discovered it had many qualities that made it perfect for desert restoration. It could survive in extreme weather conditions. The Daled Bana Desert has very hot days and very cold nights, but the Rex rabbit's thick and soft coat helped it stay warm or cool as needed. This ability to handle temperature changes made it a strong candidate for life in the desert. Also, Rex rabbits didn't need a lot of food to survive. That was important because the desert didn't offer much in terms of food. These rabbits could live on local desert plants, which are usually not very nutritious. But the rabbits could still survive and even thrive, without putting too much pressure on the environment. Another reason the Rex rabbit was chosen is because of how fast it reproduces. These rabbits reach maturity in just a few months and can have several litters each year. That meant their population could grow quickly and begin to have a positive effect on the land sooner rather than later. So, in 1999, the Chinese government launched a bold experiment. They released about 1.2 million Rex rabbits into the Daled Bana Desert. Many experts thought this was a risky move. Some believed the rabbits would fail to survive. Others feared that the rabbits would overeat the vegetation and make the situation worse. The desert is a tough place to live. Resources are scarce, and the conditions are harsh. Releasing over 1 million rabbits into such an environment required careful planning. Scientists had to figure out how to spread the rabbits out over the land so they wouldn't crowd into one place and damage the area. They also needed to make sure the rabbits had access to enough water and food to survive the first few months. Despite all these concerns, the project went ahead. What made this project stand out was that it didn't just focus on one part of the environment. It treated the desert as a whole system. The rabbits were just one part of a larger plan that included farming, soil improvement, water conservation, and other ecological practices. The idea was to create a living, breathing environment where everything supported everything else. As time passed, the Rex rabbits began to settle into their new home. Surprisingly, they did not destroy the vegetation. Instead, they helped improve the land. One of the ways they helped was by digging. While searching for food, the rabbits created small burrows in the ground. These burrows helped air and water get into the soil more easily. This is called soil aeration, and it's very important for plant roots to grow. Thanks to the rabbits, the soil started to improve. It became easier for plants to take root and grow. Another benefit of the rabbits' burrowing was better water retention. In the desert, water is precious. When it rains, the water often runs off quickly before it can soak into the ground. But the burrows made by the rabbits allowed the water to seep into the soil more effectively. This helped raise the moisture level of the ground and supported the growth of new vegetation. In addition to improving the soil and helping with water, the rabbits also added nutrients to the land through their droppings. Rabbit manure is rich in important nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. These nutrients helped feed the plants, which in turn created food and shelter for other animals. Slowly but surely, life began to return to the desert. Plants started to grow where there had been only sand. Insects and birds returned to the area. The land began to heal. By the mid-2000s, the transformation of the Dalad Bana Desert was obvious. What had once been a dry and empty place was now showing signs of life. Green patches were appearing. The soil was becoming fertile. New plant species were taking root, and more wildlife was coming back. The desert was no longer a lifeless wasteland. It was becoming a vibrant, growing ecosystem. This success story didn't go unnoticed. The Dalad Bana experiment attracted attention from around the world. Environmental experts and governments began to study what China had done. The project showed that using a mix of strategies, including animals, plants, engineering, and community efforts, could restore land that many had given up on. The use of Rex rabbits, in particular, was seen as a brilliant and unexpected move that paid off. In 2009, the United Nations officially recognized the Dalad Bana project as one of the most successful desert restoration efforts in the world. It became an example of how creativity, science, and nature can work together to solve big problems. The project proved that deserts don't have to keep spreading. With the right approach, they can be turned back into healthy ecosystems that support plants, animals, and people. The story of the Dalad Bana Desert also taught people an important lesson about how to think about environmental problems. It showed that you can't solve complex problems with simple solutions. Planting trees is not enough. You have to consider the whole picture: the soil, the water, the animals, the weather, and the people who live there. All of these elements are connected. If you try to fix just one part without thinking about the others, your solution might not last. But if you use a complete and thoughtful approach, you can bring even the most damaged land back to life. This project also helped change the way people think about animals and the environment. For a long time, livestock like goats and sheep were seen as enemies of the land in desert areas. But the Rex rabbit experiment showed that animals, when used wisely and with care, could be part of the solution. The rabbits didn't just survive, they helped build a new ecosystem. They worked with nature, not against it. Now, other countries facing desertification are looking at China's example. They are studying how to adapt the methods used in the Dalad Bana project to their own land. The idea of using animals, local vegetation, ecological engineering, and community participation is spreading. People are beginning to understand that fighting environmental problems isn't about doing just one thing, it's about doing many things together in harmony. The Daled banner story is more than just a successful experiment. It's a symbol of hope. It shows that no matter how bad the situation looks, it's possible to find a way forward. It takes vision, science, and a willingness to try something new. The success of this project offers inspiration to people around the world who are working to restore damaged land, protect the environment, and build a better future for the planet. Thanks for watching. Keep it and stay tuned. Like and subscribe our channel. Have a good day.